folks, here I am again, and here we go again. It's the year 2000, and I've been at this for almost 20 years, this coaching thing, and there have been lots of ups and downs, and like I said in the previous post, I've learned an awful lot. And this time, after leaving Würzburg, I end up in a town called Quakenbrück. Quakenbrück. Where do I begin? It was just an unbelievable experience. I spent 10 years there. And let me begin by saying that I think when I got there, it took me a little while to realize it, but I had finally hit the jackpot. It was the best of both worlds. It was more than any coach could ask for. And I say that simply because of my personal philosophies as a coach and as a person, and from the standpoint of what the program had to offer. It began, before I do anything, I have to say that Günter Coleman and his wife were just, they were the best thing that could have happened to me as a coach and the best thing that could have happened to that program. It's like, in the past, I've often talked about what it is. I've explained this to newspaper reporters and people, and it's about my particular coaching philosophy. It deals with the question of, let's say I'm an architect, and somebody comes to me and says, hey, look, here's X amount of dollars, here's all the building materials, here's all the plans, here's all the diagrams and everything that you'll need, the blueprints, the timetable, build me this house. Okay, you'll build that house, you'll get paid for it, and when it's done, you'll probably enjoy it. But what do you think, or how would you feel if a guy comes to you and says, hey, here's X amount of dollars, build me a house? Your eyes light up, simply because no matter how this house turns out, it's yours. It's something that you built. It comes out of your mind, your effort, your energy, and hopefully it's a good house. So that's what happened to me in Quakenbrück. I've also talked about the fact that if you don't have the horses, you can't run the race in professional sports. And it's true. And the difference is, if you put somebody in an amateur program where you don't go out and recruit players, you have to build the players from the start. If you can be successful there against other teams that have done the same thing, that don't have paid for players, if you can be successful doing something like that, then you've done a pretty good job. And like I said, Quakenbrück was for me the best of both worlds. I got to coach a professional team, and I got to build a youth program. And it entailed the experiences that I'd had up until that point, and also one of the things that I learned when I was in the military. When I came to Quakenbrück, I'm not going to say it was all peaches and cream. There was some resistance, because you can't go into a place and make sweeping changes and expect there not to be some resistance somewhere. And there was some. I mean, there were people that have been in that program forever, and their places were pretty solid, and they thought that that's the way things have always been, and that's the way they should be going on. And I had some different plans. I've seen what had happened with individual teams when one player or two players who have been, like I said, in the Weilheim situation, you got a player that's been captain for 5 or 6 years, and you come in and all of a sudden you pick somebody else to be captain. There's going to be some resistance. Well, you got to multiply that by a whole club when I got to Quakenbrück. But I learned over the past and the experiences that I can't expect people to just say, okay, we'll drop everything and do it your way. So I sort of tried to fit in. I let things go. I stayed in my lane. I did the things that were assigned to me, which was work with the youth program and the second men's team. And that's what I started with. And gradually, I was able to convince people that maybe I had some ideas that were worth following. It wasn't really that hard to do because the kids and the parents, they just wanted to play basketball. They just wanted to have a coach that was going to be there, that was going to help their kids play. And before I go into the individual players, let me say one of the great things about Quakenbrück was not only was Herr Coleman very good at what he did and gave me pretty much free reign, the resources that he had in his business, Herr Gehring, Herr Abendroth, all these people were there. If I needed something, I just went to him. I said, hey, we need new uniforms, or we need this, or we need that. And it was there. It made that aspect of it so much easier. They even bought and gave me an office to run on the main street where we could have people come in and sign up for the club and take care of club business and stuff like that. So it was really just a great situation, and we'll go into the individuals that made it really so much fun. But before I do that, I got to explain to you, I was there for 10 years, so there's an awful lot involved and a great deal to cover. It's broken down, and it'll be broken down into 3 separate phases. There's the youth program, boys and girls. There's the men's program, which involved the men's professional team. And then there was the girls program, which was a separate thing that I sort of just ran into and started to develop it, and it turned out to be pretty good. But I'm not going to talk that much more about it. I'm just going to make a whole bunch of videos and post a whole bunch of pictures so you can see some of the stuff that went on. The people that I came in contact with that were so much fun, other than, the whole process began with Gert Guldenpfennig, a lawyer who was very close to the club, and Mr. Coleman. He had me come up and he showed me around the town. And then when I say town, I mean town. I think there were 2 stoplights in the town, but they were basketball crazy. And like I said, I had parents that, unique in today's world, they were extremely engaged, but not involved. They did everything they could to help the program, whether it was put money into it or drive to games or help set up sales on game days and run the in-house league or whatever. They did all that, but they left the basketball program part to me and the other coaches, and that was great. Yeah, there was a little bit of pushback there, here and there, but overall, it was outstanding. Especially the Hermes family was just, they were really there all of the time. So moving on to the player part. The youth program and the second men's team, which I was supposed to work with, I had very little to do when I first got there with the first men's team. But let me throw one more thing out for you. The European system, like the one in Germany, is so much better for players who want to continue playing than the system that we have here in the States. In the States, if you play high school basketball, or if you want to play basketball and you're in high school and you don't make your high school team, it's over. Okay, let's be honest. Yeah, you can play some AAU in the summer, but if you don't play high school basketball and you're not a really good high school basketball player, when you graduate from high school, your basketball career is over. Then you move on to college. You go to college. There were, like, my college had, 15,000 people, and there were 12 or 15 of us on the basketball team. Everybody else, you could play intramurals, but you had no real basketball that you could play. So if you didn't make it to play in college, it was over. You finish college, if you don't make it into the pros or go overseas to play professionally, it's over. The European system, the club system, enables people to continue playing, much like this stuff that I'm trying to do at Ultimate Hoops. You can just keep playing, and it's broken into all kinds of different divisions. There's Kreisliga, Bezirksliga, Landesliga, Oberliga, Bezirksoberliga, Regionalliga 1 and 2, Second Bundesliga, and First Bundesliga. If your team wins and the club wants to support it and you've got the finances, you keep moving up to the next league. And it's just a great system. So, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds can continue to play competitively. And that kind of makes it fun. Anyway, enough of that lesson. Herr Guldenfennig brings me in and we walk around the town and he shows me the two gyms. One, the Artland Arena, which is for most of the games and some practice, and the Artland Gymnasium. And we had the use of both of them. That enabled me to have as much practice as I wanted to have with my teams. And it was just right from the beginning, it was fun. There were some young players that I have to shout out to right off the bat from those early boys teams. We can start with Alexander Schwartz and Stefan Müller, two kids who I also brought to the States, along with Volker Laumann. Three good young players who eventually made it onto the pro team. Alex and Steph both made it onto the Artland Dragons team. And Alex eventually left Quakenbrück and went on and played in other clubs. All the guys in that whole group, one of my favorite young players, but one of the guys that we brought in to help the team, a young man named Tim Volpenheim. Tim was just, he and his wife were just real fun to coach. Mukul, Christian Lampe, another, I don't know if there's a player who had as much natural talent in the post as Mukul. The kid just did stuff. And you just say to yourself, he doesn't work that hard, but all of his stuff works. And he's another guy that was fun to coach. Holger Tom. I don't think I ever said thank you enough to Holger. He was a guy who had played on the men's first team. And as he got older, he decided that he would help me out and play on our second men's team. He might have been the best utility player that I've ever coached. He had a tremendous basketball IQ. He could do just about anything on the court. Really fun to have. Then there were in the youth program, Daniel Kraus, a player who I helped develop and eventually sent to the States and played at a place called Sunrise Christian Academy. I think Daniel was either the first or the second foreign player to go to Sunrise Christian Academy. If you check the internet, you'll now see that Sunrise Christian Academy is one of the top high schools in the country, mostly with now players that they recruit from all over the country and half of the world. But Daniel was one of the pioneer players in that program, along with one of the girls that I sent to Sunrise, who I had a chance of coaching. I had her, I think she started as a 15-year-old or 14-year-old, and she went up through high school. I sent her to Sunrise. She came back. She played on our women's team in Quakenbrück when she came back from the States. And eventually she also played for me on another pro team a few years down the road. We'll come back to her later. Then probably my all-time favorite Bulldog player was Katrin Sokol-Potrets. Also, I don't know if there's a woman on the planet who worked as hard on the court as she did. She wasn't the biggest, but she got the most rebounds. She wasn't the strongest, but she could take the ball from anybody. She played D, she worked hard. Anytime I had a team that was really needed a push or a pull, Catherine was there and she did it. Just one of the hardest workers, and she got her whole family involved. I eventually ended up coaching her little daughter then, Anna Marie, who I had her when she was just beginning. There'll be some pictures of her also. And she went from a kid that I couldn't get out of the gym at 10, 11, 12 years old or whatever. She wouldn't leave the gym. She just kept coming and kept working and kept coming. And I had the great fortune, years later, I think 10, 12 years later, I got a chance to coach another women's pro team, and Anna Marie was my point guard. That was just, you talk about going full circle. Well, that was it. To have a kid play her first basketball in the program with me, and then years later, I get a chance to coach her as a pro. And there are just so many. I can't even name all the players that were there. And that whole program with the girls was another one of those, stand back and watch, and then add my touch to it, whatever that meant. Quakenbrück had a women's team. They played Regionalliga, which is third league, and they usually practiced before my men's team practiced. So I got to come in. I was always in the gym early, and I'd be sitting in the stands watching the end of their practice and whatever. And I recall one year I sat and watched them during their tryouts or whatever it was, and I saw that there were, much like the situation in Fulda way back when, there were 3 or 4 girls who did not make that team. And they obviously still wanted to play, but they had no chance because there was not a second women's team. So I decided to try my hand with another girls team and get them started. And it went from there. I took those 3 or 4 players and a bunch of players that I had just started teaching, like Ellen Mueller, who did I just mention? Christina Gravenstetter, Evelyn Duda. There were just bunches of them, and they'll all be in the pictures. Nina Oelkers. It was just a really fun situation, and the biggest difference was these kids were just happy to have somebody willing to coach them. So we started as a girls team under 18, and at the same time we registered them to play in the lowest women's league, the Bezirksliga. So they played in the Bezirksliga, and they turned out to be pretty good. We won. We moved up to the Bezirksoberliga. We won. We moved up to the Oberliga. We won. We moved up to the second Regionalliga. They won again. Then they moved up to the Regionalliga. They won again, and they moved into the Pro League. All the same kids, with the exception, we did bring in, because like I said, if you don't have the horses, you can't play in the pro level. I brought in a young lady named Chelsea Chowning. Chelsea she might have been the best point guard that I've ever coached. Chelsea was, there was Carmen Guzman, a slightly different story, but to that point, Chelsea might have been the best young player that I've ever coached. She had played in the States. I believe she played at Kentucky. Just an outstanding guard. Smart, good shooter, good passer, great team player. And she had a running buddy who used to get on my nerve because she was probably the only player that could come down the floor and take a really bad shot and airball it, and all I could do was laugh because it didn't matter. She would laugh and go back and steal the ball and come back and attack. Every time she made a mistake, she'd fix it. And that was Christy. Christy Wallner was a player that any coach would have loved to have. And everybody loved them. They were the 2 Americans on that last team. They didn't act like they were the superstars like some foreign players do when they come over. They fit in so well, and it just made it fun. So much for that. Then there was that other aspect of my job, which was eventually working with the men's first team. They eventually let go the coach that they had on that men's team, and I was given the opportunity to sort of be a mentor for a young man who had just played. He had been playing, I think, in Quakenbrück for like 7 years. And in those 7 years, he had become a fixture in Quakenbrück. And so what was decided was Mr. Coleman was going to give him the head coach job and make me his associate. So sort of, because he had never coached before. But I can tell you, Chris Fleming was born to be a basketball coach. Right from go, he and I hit it off. I just answered questions, helped when I could, fought with the refs so he wouldn't get technical fouls, because Chris can get temperate from time to time. So I would step in and take care of that part of it. And I'd give a little bit of my advice here and there. I'd help with recruiting the players. I'd ref the games in practice, and we had some of the great, fun players that any coach could imagine. Of course, there was Michael Jordan, not the Michael Jordan, but our Michael Jordan. Michael had played at Penn. Again, he was the kind of player that you need to make a team run. He's a point guard, elite point guard. Michael, then there was Darius Hall and Johnny McNeil and AJ Granger, Mislav Jukovic, Niels Becker. I can never forget Arno Voltman was, again, like Holger, he was one of the best utility players that you could have. He also came down and played on my second men's team. Jamie Duncan. There was Brian Bailey, and the list goes on. It was just, I have to say at this point, we also were the only team to ever go 30 games, 30 wins, no losses, and move up into the first league. And I've got the trophy to prove it. At any rate, it was a lot of fun, and I can't say enough to thank the Colemans for what they allowed me to do while I was there, and all of the players that participated and helped and allowed themselves to be coached, and the parents that supported them. So I'm going to post a lot of videos, one right now and a couple of other pictures with that. And over the next couple of days, I'm just going to put up videos showing everything that went on. There's one really long video that shows what the men's team did. I didn't make that. That was made back after they won that championship and moved up into the first league. And I want to put that in, especially just for the people in Quakenbrück who might not have ever seen it, because it was a special time at a very special place. So to all of you in Quakenbrück, oh, did I forget the Doinkster? Yes, I did. Florian Doink was one of my all-time favorite knuckleheads. And I hope he just recently got married. I hope he and his wife are doing really well. Christian Abendroth, who also came and visited. And almost all of the Quakenbrück young players came over here and spent time with the Rickett family. So that thread will run throughout all of this. So again, thanks to all of them for what they did, allowing me to run a program for them. Thank you.